Hey 12s, welcome back. So in the last class we looked at plants, so we covered our different types of plants, C3, C4 and CAM plants, as well as the factors that affects photosynthesis, such as light availability, temperature, and of course pH, carbon dioxide concentration, water availability, and to a lesser extent, enzyme inhibition. We're going to move on to cellular respiration today. Okay. So yeah, we're looking at how ATP energy is created in the many different processes. There are dot points, of course, and we're moving on. So energy from glucose. So animals, we're heterotrophs. What does that mean? Hetero, other, troph, food. We get our food from others. We either eat autotrophs, plants, or we eat other heterotrophs, such as other animals. Okay. And of course, we need to consume a bunch of different things, proteins being one, lipids being one, and carbohydrates being another. Okay? And of course, that is our polysaccharides. So any starchy or gluten-based foods, carbohydrates. So cellular respiration allows cells to essentially break this glucose down and create ATP energy, which is a molecule that has a lot of energy in it and can do a lot of things in the body. All right, so we can see that here. We have our glucose, C6, so carbon 6, hydrogen 12, oxygen 6. And of course, we breathe, so inhaling, that's our oxygen. All right, then we have our chemical reaction occurring, and our outputs all the way, through cellular respiration, because these are from the multiple stages. Carbon dioxide is going to come out. All right. Water is going to also be a byproduct, which is great. And then, of course, energy. All right. So 30 or 32 ATP, and those numbers are very specific for a reason. All right, let's look at the anatomy of the mitochondrion, just like we did for the chloroplast. All right. So these are obviously in animal cells, but they're also in plant cells. When they're those little seeds, they need to grow somehow. They need energy somehow. They don't have leaves, so they can't photosynthesize. They need to aerobically respirate. All right. It has a double phospholipid bilayer, so an inner membrane that you can see here, and then the outer membrane in the orange there. There's the intermembranous space, obviously, which is in between those two membranes. And then we have the crystal matrix in the middle, which is inside the inner membrane. And the folds on that inner membrane are called the cristae, and they're really important too. Okay, so the intermembranous space, super important. The cristae, super important. The crystal matrix, super important. And, of course, outside the mitochondrion is also important too. So we have three processes that occur in cellular respiration. So we're going to break it down to glycolysis in this video, the Krebs cycle in the next video, and the electron transport chain, or ETC, in that last video. Okay. So we have glycolysis here. It's the first stage of cellular respiration, the one we're going to be focusing on in this video. So where does it occur? The location is in the cytosol. So that's the jelly-like liquid of the cell. Okay. You might have heard of cytoplasm. All right, and that's the jelly-like liquid plus the organelles. So the cytosol is just the jelly-like liquid. So please note it's not in the mitochondria. The other two processes occur in the mitochondria, but the glycolysis reaction does not. All right, and let's break down this word now. Okay, so glyco is our first part, lysis is our second. All right, so lysis we know means splitting in half, and glyco refers to glucose. So the splitting of glucose, and that's what it is. It involves splitting or lysis of glucose from a hexagonal, shown here, 6-pointed glucose molecule, because it has C6, all right, to 2 molecules of pyruvate, which have 3 carbons each. Okay, 2 ATP are also created during this process. So what are our inputs and outputs? All right, we know our location, which is our cytosol of the cell. All right, and our inputs are going to be 1 6-carbon glucose molecule. All right, 2 ATP go in. All right, so we're just going to write up here plus 2. All right. And then we have this other molecule that we've seen before, but we've seen NADP. Now it's just NAD. Okay. So P for photosynthesis. No P equals aerobic respiration. So we have 2 molecules of NAD+. All right, glycolysis occurs, the splitting of glucose occurs. Boom, that glucose gets cut in half, and then you have pyruvate and another pyruvate, okay, which would look something like that. Cool. We have 4 molecules of ATP produced. All right. So if we rub this off, before I should have written -2 plus 4 equals, that's right, 2 ATP produced in profit or total. Okay, so that's something to note. That 4 ATP comes out, and then hydrogens get attached to this NAD and makes NADH. And something to note about NADH is obviously it has that hydrogen there, which is important. That will come back later. But the main thing is that it carries electrons. All right, carries electrons. It's an electron carrying coenzyme. All right, and that's what I was alluding to from this slide. So NADH, and we're going to look at another one, FAD and FADH2. Again, they have, no, that's green. I mean, that's yellow. That does not look good. Again, they have those sneaky H's, which are great. Hydrogens, because we need those for later. But they also have a primary thing that they do, which is they carry energy in the form of the electrons. Okay. They're like a gift card for energy in a way. All right. So that's another way you can think of it. They can only be spent in the mitochondria. All right. So the mitochondria is, I don't know, your Bunnings warehouse in this example. Your gift card is your NADH. Sorry. Yeah, NADH. That should be a DH, not HD. And then FADH. Okay. Can only be spent in the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain.